Hello, I'm Odin. It's time for another very requested prop. I'm going to make a face mask based off of Black Panther's helmet from Captain America: Civil War. I was excited to find a free 3D file for the helmet on do3d.com. I wanted to print it out and then make a pattern from that print, but my printer refused to cooperate. Instead, I scaled a Pepakura file with Armorsmith Designer, which got me the basic shape. And I got my first paper mask. This side's white because I just double printed the cheeks, right, to get a full mask. But putting this together, I found out that the size that I've got is too small. So easy enough, it's a computer file. I increased it 15, 20%, I actually don't remember. And I've got a larger size that's actually gonna fit a bit better. So this is the size that I wanna go with. This type of paper pattern, Pepakura, I believe, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, all the lines are very angular. They're all very straight lines because they're supposed to be put together with the cardstock, right? I don't want that type of a vectored look on the mask. So I took this pattern into Inkscape and softened the lines up. So I got my new pattern, which I'll cut out, and then we'll make a test one out of foam. Cut the pieces out, clip the registration marks. For a small project, there are many pieces. And I've got my full pattern. I went through and marked how all the different seams line up with letter codes because it's not intuitive how this thing goes together. And there's an extra piece on here that I'm actually not gonna use. This is a little bit here. It's actually the part that goes underneath the eye. I think I'll get a cleaner line without using it. So it's on the pattern because I made it, but I'm just not gonna use it. If you wanna use it, you can, because there's a link in the description for this pattern so you can make one for yourself. I traced all the parts onto some craft foam first as like one more test. All right, so a little more happened here when the cameras weren't running, and I apologize for that, but this is the tester piece that I made from foam to see how well the pieces are gonna fit together. And pretty happy with it. This extra marking is how all the little panel lines and accents are gonna have to fit on over the top of it. The one thing I'm noticing is the seams along the cheek here, which I'll mark on the pattern. I'm actually gonna need to cut those on a slight angle because they need to kind of get more of a cut-in look because it looks better when it does. And on the table, I know it looks really wide, but when you put it on with straps, it'll pull it back into more the right shape. So that's the plan. These are the extra eye pieces that I just don't think I need. Let's cut this out of some better foam. I copy all the pieces onto some 4mm HD foam. I now realize how lucky I am to have 4mm HD foam because Blick Arts doesn't carry this size. We should let them know that they really need to. All the pieces fit into a small space and they would easily be cut from a single sheet of thick craft foam. If you want 4mm foam, you can order some from TNT Cosplay. I cut out all of my parts again. This is only the 4th time, but it feels like it's been more. These are the 4 cheek pieces that I want to cut an angle onto one side. I decided to grind the angle with my rotary tool instead. I have a little more control over the angles that way. They all looked the same, which is good. Now, honestly, in hindsight, they could have been a little bigger of an angle. I start gluing the parts together, and all of the seams are actually on the edges, so this chemical-resistant bottle is really nice for applying contact cement. And then spread it thin with a piece of scrap foam. And that way it dries really quickly, so construction is pretty fast. I suggest starting with the chin and then working up to the nose because the cheek panels kind of zigzag with the mouth panels, and I found it was the easiest to do it this way. So the bridge of the nose needs more definition. It's foam. This is what normally happens. I ran into the same problem with the Bane mask, and what I did with that mask, as well as with the test one here, is cut a piece of metal that just fit across the bridge of the nose. This is just like any other face mask you're buying where you've got this bit in order to make it fit around the top of your nose. I used some tin snips to cut some thin aluminum, and I traced my pattern onto the metal and used the right and left hand snips to cut the shape that I actually want. You see, a single straight piece of metal won't fit the shape of a nose. I hammer the piece flat on my mighty anvil and grind the edges smooth because I don't want to scratch my nose. Not with the metal anyway. Contact cement will glue the metal to the foam. Just scratch the metal up first so the glue can get a better grip. Then I bend it into a nose shape. Yep, better fit. I don't like the angled jawline the Pepakura file left, so I quickly traced the shape and cut a couple of pieces to fill in that spot. I use the rotary tool again to smooth the seams between the panels and remove extra glue. I also grind an angle along the top edge. This will help make the mask look thinner from the front. I start using some flexible spackle filler to fill in the seams. The stuff I have is drying out, it's getting kind of old, so I spray a little water on it and then smear it around, making a really thin layer. And I cover the entire front of the mask. The thin spackle will fill in most of the foam texture as well as the seams. It dries pretty quick in the summer, but I leave it alone for a few hours just to be sure. While the mask dries, I use tracing paper to copy the lines from the tester mask. All I want are the raised lines that will be silvered. The rest of the panel lines I'll add in with a wood burning tool. And those parts. I'll remake these patterns on the computer where I can be sure that they'll be symmetrical. After the spackle dries, I lightly sand it smooth. I was careful not to remove all of the spackle, or putty. I just wanted the surface to be as smooth as I could get it. Before I add any of the panel line details, I wanted to be sure the mask is the correct shape, so I tape it down to a head cast that I have from Beyond Geek. Much better. Not perfect, much better. Now I need to put the details on. I cut out my corrected pattern pieces and I trace them all onto the mask because I want to know where I need to add glue. I'll also need to cut a set from 2mm HD foam. I just try to fill the place where I need the glue. I should get a set of dollar store paintbrushes for stuff like this. I added glue to the 2mm pieces as well, of course, and then place them symmetrically on the mask following the pencil lines, because I really don't want crooked pieces. And it's not easy, because I really want them to fit right the first time. I make all of the parts long, because it's simple to cut off the extra. So I'm looking at this is going to be all the silver highlights, and I like the way this looked with all this being raised panels. I don't want to put any more panels on here. I was considering doing the one that goes down the front of the face, but I think all the other stuff, I'm just going to add all that detail in with a wood burner. I make a paper pattern, so the lines that are on both cheeks will be the same. The pattern is like a stencil, so I need to fill in the rest. Another template for the squares that go behind the silver lines, and I draw the parallel lines in the mouth by hand, adding the curves on each side. There's a few more small lines after all that. And then I can start using the wood burner. Now I am really worried about making the lines too big because it's easy to really burn lines into the foam. And finding the right angle to work from while keeping my hand steady is the toughest part. The mouth has a grid of holes, so the actor can breathe while wearing the helmet. Well, I draw my grid on with a 5mm spacing, and then use a tiny drill bit to add in the holes. Good, they all went through. I think what I want to do is get a cone piece, make all these bigger on the backside. But hey, I can actually inhale through that a lot easier than I thought I could. What I meant by a cone piece is this cone-shaped steel bit. I'm widening just the back of each breathing hole. That is surprisingly easy to breathe through. That is easier to breathe through than my Deku mask. Wow. All right. It still exhales around my eyes, but when I inhale, it comes straight through. This is easier to breathe through than the Deku mask. Well, that's kind of cool. All right, I'm all right with that. Now, what do I need to do? I'm ready to just Plastidip it. After the mask was Plastidipped, I went through with a solvent for Plastidip. It just poured a little onto some paper towels and smoothed out all the places that I want to be silver. And then I also added some glossifier back on top using a paintbrush. You see, what I want to get is the smoothest, glossiest look I can get on these little pieces because I'm going to have Joe cover these with Alclad chrome paint. It takes an airbrush to do it, which I don't really have the skill to use, and Joe's way better at it, so I'll just let him run the airbrush. My hope is that the Alclad will remain flexible and have a really nice chrome-like silver finish. I wanted a really flat black color to be next to the chrome, so I painted everything else with a Tamiya flat black acrylic paint. which looked really good, especially next to the Aqua Gloss sealed chrome paint, except I kept having brush marks in the paint. And it wasn't that the paint was too thick, it wasn't streaks. It looks more like when an area of a carpet or other fabric is rubbed the wrong way and that sheen just changes a little. I think I'm done painting it. Been working on this a little bit off and on for a while. You saw Joe, he used the Alclad chrome to get the really awesome chrome effect on this, and it is just foam, remember. And then I went through and painted the rest of it with the base color of the Tamiya flat. And then I added some more kind of the satin color with the Plaid FX black. And then I came back in and added a little bit more with Black 3.0. And pretty happy with the different colors on here. I added some highlights with Mod Podge Ultra Gloss. All I got to do now to finish it is add on some straps. And to do that, I'm actually going to use shoelaces, because currently it's impossible to find black cord at a fabric store. Cut the shoelaces to length, and I can melt the ends on these, and that'll prevent them from fraying. Contact cement will keep the cords in place, and I have a Black Panther face mask that can be worn anytime. Most of the materials I use are available to order and have shipped right to you. I put a list and links in the description. So the mask was sized to fit me, right? Not necessarily Sage. It doesn't quite fit the face quite as well, but you get the idea. And what's really nice is having cords this long, you can tie it behind the head, which I kind of have to do for a plaster cast. I can't quite put it behind the ears because they don't flex enough to be able to put it on and off without stressing the mask, and I don't want to do that. But this, I think, works. I think I've got the important details on the front of the mask so you know who you're looking at. You can easily breathe through the front of it because of all the holes that are there. You'll need to wear a mask underneath it or some other small filter to help actually make it do its job. But if you wanted to cosplay while wearing a mask, because let's face it, if we have to wear a mask, we may as well have fun with it, you could do a lot worse. I know there's going to be lots of different ways that you can make a royal Wakandan face mask, but this is how Odin makes. Hello, I'm Odin, and I'm going to make another I want to thank Darrex Rogers, Random Shinobi, and all of my Patreon supporters. My Patreon support is the #1 thing that makes this show possible. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe. Have an idea for something for me to make? Please leave a comment below. And if you make any of these projects, you can send me a picture.